Lifetime's Intimate Portrait, LeAnn Rimes. LeAnn Rimes is finally happy, with a loving husband, a career that's lasted more than a decade, and a musical talent that knows no bounds.
I think she has a real good understanding of her gift.
She's always had a real vision of what she wanted to do.
She was only 13 years old when one song turned her into country music's Teen of Hearts. It was a song she almost didn't record.
My dad told me he'd gotten a song in and he threw it away because he didn't like it.
She basked in the spotlight with childlike glee.
I could really get used to this. This isn't too bad.
But off stage, she was just a vulnerable little girl, overwhelmed by the demands of stardom.
I went, whoa, hold on one second, I need to take a break.
At 18, LeAnn decided to take control of her career and her own well-being.
You sucked me in and played my mind.
I am in control of my life, and I really want to do this now.
How did LeAnn find the courage to forge her own path? Her journey is one of faith, an unstoppable drive to get to the top, and a firm belief in her own destiny. This is Lifetime's Intimate Portrait of LeAnn Rimes. Lifetime's Intimate Portrait, hosted by Meredith Vieira.
I remember the very first time I heard LeAnn Rimes sing. I'm driving in my car listening to the radio, and I hear this voice, this incredible voice. The next thing I know, the announcer says that the voice belongs to a singer named LeAnn Rimes, and that LeAnn is 13 years old. How could a 13-year-old sound like that? Well, LeAnn Rimes is all grown up, and believe it or not, her voice just keeps getting better. But as it turns out, her big voice brought this little girl some very grown-up problems. This is her story, her words.
LeAnn Rimes had become a country music superstar when she was barely a teenager.
I want to thank my mom and dad and La Walker for everything they've done for me. I want to thank all the fans and all of radio for playing my music.
She had always relied on her parents for guidance and support.
You know, it was definitely hard being a kid and having to grow up very fast and dealing with adult decisions.
Her parents were phenomenal. They were always there. They always encouraged her.
But when she turned 18, she shocked everyone by turning against the man who was with her from the very start. The man who devoted himself to taking her to the top, her father.
LeAnn was definitely the daddy's girl from the beginning, and he adored her. She just walked on water.
And the conflict that erupted had all the makings of a classic country song.
Lately, I've been around so many lawyers, I was afraid my next appearance might be on court TV. But I'm bummed. Keep on shining, shine on the water's gone, and left me blue.
LeAnn was truly a miracle child for her parents, Belinda and Wilbur Rimes. They tried to conceive a baby for 12 years and were told there was no hope.
The doctors had told me that I would never have children. I had some female problems, and one day I prayed for a child, and 6 weeks later I found out I was pregnant. And she's always been looked at as a blessing, and I've never kept it from her that she was special.
Margaret LeAnn Rimes was born on August 28, 1982, in the tiny town of Flowood, Mississippi. LeAnn's father worked for an oil company and played music on the side. The Rimes household was always filled with music, and LeAnn showed an interest in singing and a true talent at a very young age.
It was funny watching the whole thing just kind of unfold. By the time she was walking, she was singing. She was singing before she spoke, pretty much.
She also knew how to command an audience.
When I was really little, I would stand in front of my family and I would sing like 5 lines of the song, and then I'd look at them and I'd say, "Clap for me." And then if they didn't clap, I wouldn't go any farther. I'd just walk away.
Wilbur Rimes was very pleased that his little girl inherited his love of music, and he encouraged her in every way he could.
Her father was very dedicated to her singing, and he's got a drive that I think she's learned from him, and he was there for her.
Outside of just the role of daddy and daughter, they were good friends. They had a lot in common and loved to laugh and have fun and make music, and it was a really good combination for her.
Her teacher asked her to do a song and dance routine to Nickelodeon, and she won the event. And at that point, about 5 years old, she said, "I want to be a singer, Mother." And so her dad and I helped her as much as we could and gave her the opportunities, and it worked.
In 1998, the family found a bigger market to showcase LeAnn's talent when they moved to Garland, Texas, near Dallas.
I'm a very driven person, and I guess I've always been that since I was a child. Something I guess it was instinctual that I just knew this is what I was here for.
People were taken with the power of LeAnn's voice and her sheer determination to achieve her goal of being a star. Her proud parents were behind her 100%.
They were very encouraging and never told me that it would never happen, or they never discouraged me from doing what I love to do.
I knew she was going to touch hearts everywhere she went by her charisma. She just has a sweetness about her, an angelic sweetness about her.
At the ripe old age of 7, LeAnn auditioned for a coveted position on the Johnny High Country Music Review. It was one of the premier venues in the Dallas area, and LeAnn really wanted to get a spot on the show.
I'm going to be very honest with you. I really wasn't sure the first time I heard her. I mean, she was certainly good, but I didn't know that at that time that she had that really special something. It took me a few weeks to really determine that she really did. One of the things that was so special about her, assuming the talent was a given, was the fact that she was so committed and so determined and so persistent. She knew exactly what she wanted.
She and Johnny High developed a close friendship and a great working relationship. LeAnn became a regular at the Arlington, performing 423 shows over the course of 6 years.
I think when I went on stage to perform, it was just like an extension of me. It was just a natural thing for me as a child. And I started so young that I really never had stage fright, and I never really knew what that was. I never had any fear of people, and I loved to perform. I really, really loved that.
Word of the little girl with the big voice traveled all over Texas.
For the land of the free.
And her rendition of the national anthem was so moving that she was invited to sing at professional football and baseball games in the Dallas area.
She came out and just absolutely blew everybody away. It was unbelievable, and got the biggest ovation. And I don't think the audience, wanted to see her quit.
It was an audio tape made at one of those games that changed LeAnn's life forever. Next, A young LeAnn pays a price for early fame.
Girls can be very catty, and girls gave me a really hard time from about 5th grade on.
And later, the dizzying heights of stardom push LeAnn to the brink.
Everyone believes now that she probably was making too many appearances. In other words, I think she worked too hard.
When Lifetime's intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes continues. And now we return to the intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes. It may have been fate that Bill Mack, a well-known Dallas disc jockey and songwriter, received an audio cassette of LeAnn singing the Star-Spangled Banner in 1991.
When I first heard it, I thought, this girl is 9 years old, 10 years old. I thought somebody was joking me.
In the 1960s, Mack had written a song called Blue. He hoped country legend Patsy Cline would record it, but she died in a plane crash in 1965. He put the song away until he heard LeAnn sing.
When I saw her walk on stage, I literally got chills. She had that soul in her that Patsy had. But at the same time, I noticed that she was individual. She had her own style.
Bill Mack sent a copy of his song, Blue, to LeAnn's dad.
And my dad told me he'd gotten a song in and he threw it away because he didn't like it. And I said, well, can I hear it? So I dug it out of the trash and listened to it. I don't know what it was, but for some reason I knew I could sing it the way that it should be, should be done.
At that time, LeAnn's career was being managed by her father and Texas attorney Lyle Walker. They arranged for LeAnn to record an album, and she insisted on including Blue.
LeAnn said, Dad, please, I want to do that song. And like most dads, said, well, whatever the daughter wants. but LeAnn chose it.
In 1994, Mike Curb, chairman of Curb Records, heard LeAnn's rendition of Blue, and he didn't waste any time offering her a record deal.
I called her manager at the time, Lyle Walker, and he arranged for LeAnn and her father Wilbur and her mother Belinda to meet us in Tennessee the next day. They drove up from Texas.
LeAnn Rimes signed with Curb Records in May 1995. She was only 12 years old. LeAnn's career was moving forward, but she had some problems back home in Texas.
School became really tough for me with kids when, girls can be very catty, and girls gave me a really hard time from about 5th grade on. I made straight A's. I think I was a good kid and teachers loved me, and I had a great relationship with everybody, and so all the girls didn't like me too much.
There's a lot of hype in the school about LeAnn, what she was doing, and newspaper clippings and magazine articles. And so I think with all of that around one child, that kind of sets things up for possible jealousy and resentment and poking fun of and names and just that really uncomfortable feeling that you don't want to have at school.
LeAnn decided she needed a change.
Once I got my record deal, which was in 6th grade, I was really, about to go on the road and start really, taking the next step into to what I wanted to do. So I really started homeschooling, and I skipped 2 grades and moved straight to 9th grade. So I went to high school when I was 12.
In May 1996, Curb Records released LeAnn's first single. It was Blue. The record caused an instant buzz.
When I heard that voice, it definitely didn't match up, this little girl. It was just, It was the, I think the soulfulness of her voice for that song was just incredible.
There was no way you could listen to her on the radio and believe that she was the age that she was. There's no way that you could.
It was intoxicating to hear such a raw talent come out of somebody that young.
Sales went through the roof, and the record flew up the charts.
So lonesome I could cry.
Most recording artists usually have 5 or 6 singles that maybe do not hit before they get their first real career record. Blue was the first release, and it was huge.
With the instant success of Blue, LeAnn was in demand. And on June 11th, 1996, she kicked off her first concert tour in Nashville, Tennessee. From there, she and her parents hit the road. LeAnn was performing in a different city every night.
It was not a slow rise, it was a very fast rise. And everybody had to know who this kid was.
It took off so fast that we had to learn a lot really quick. And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. It was exciting, but it was, you know, it was overwhelming at times.
In the middle of the grueling touring schedule, LeAnn managed to squeeze in time to write a book with author Tom Carter called Holiday in Your Heart.
I didn't have any downtime at that moment, so we were kind of fitting that in. And we wrote a lot on the bus, and you know, we wanted to make it a fun, like, holiday story that had a really great message, and it kind of based a little bit off of my life.
The book was made into a TV movie, which aired in December of 1997, starring LeAnn, playing the character of, well, LeAnn.
I'm sorry. Who did you say you were? I came off of a 168-day tour, and I learned my lines on set, and it was pretty terrifying at that time. It was really hard for me to learn, you know, to like get thrown into something that I'd never done before. I did plays when I was little, but never anything like that.
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah. But you forgot to mention Roy Acuff and Bob Wilson.
You don't know them.
Take me back to Tulsa, Wabash, Cannonball.
What about Merle Travis?
16 tons, divorce me, Old Mountain Dew.
Well, that was long before you was born. How do you know all this stuff?
Boys know baseball statistics. I know country. I grew up on it.
LeAnn's music career continued to soar. There was no stopping her, and there was no end in sight.
We did a TV special, and after she did this TV special, the headlines in the Hollywood Reporter were LeAnn Rimes bigger than Mary Poppins. And at that point, everybody believed that this is somebody very, very special.
LeAnn and her parents dealt with her celebrity the best they could, all the while striving to keep their tightly knit family together.
Her parents were very, very involved. Wilbur would do everything from producing records to arranging the records to driving the bus. And her mother really was a fantastic female influence for her.
Her mother is a rock. Belinda has been a rock in LeAnn's life since the beginning, and she just exudes strength.
Her parents kept LeAnn's image squeaky clean, shielding her from the typical tabloid exposés.
I was too young for them. I mean, I might have been linked up to Jonathan Taylor Thomas or something back then, but who knows?
But the exhausting schedule and relentless demands on her time finally started to wear LeAnn down. After a whirlwind year in the spotlight, the 13-year-old teen queen was starting to feel the stress that came along with her success.
I do think we overworked her.
Next, LeAnn's family is tested by her fame.
We were learning the business as well as trying to be mother and father, so it was challenging, very challenging.
And later, LeAnn's heartbreaking split with her biggest fan.
I think she was angry more at the situation than an individual.
When Lifetime's intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes continues.
It was her dream come true.
The Grand Ole Opry?
until a family tragedy
Grandma Keaton's had a bad spell.
forced her to make a choice.
It's like the biggest night of my life.
Bernadette Peters
You're gonna get where you're going. The question is, who's gonna be there with you?
and LeAnn Rimes starring as herself, based on her true story of hope and inspiration.
For you, Grandma, may you always have a holiday in your heart.
Holiday in Your Heart. Premieres at 9 tonight, part of Lifetime's Every Day's a Holiday.
This is Lifetime's intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes. With the success of her first album, LeAnn had realized her dream. But she also had to deal with the reality of being a public figure.
Didn't really expect, all the interviews and all the, criticism and all the stuff that came along with it.
In just 1 year on the road, 14-year-old LeAnn was booked on more than 175 concert dates all over the world. But she never had a chance to take time out for herself.
I think almost everyone believes now that she probably was making too many appearances. In other words, I think she worked too hard.
I do think we overworked her. And I'll take some responsibility, her father and I, but I'll take some responsibility. I reacted to it because once the momentum starts up, you want to keep it going.
We were learning the business as well as trying to be mother and father, so it was challenging, very challenging.
If you've never been in the eye of the storm, it's really hard to say what you do when you were there. And I think that her family did the best they could, and they made the best decisions with the knowledge that they were equipped with under those conditions.
LeAnn was earning tens of millions of dollars, the kind of paydays her family had only dreamed of.
People around here would call LeAnn and say, we want you to come do a show, we can pay you $50. All of a sudden, she's making, whatever, a ton.
But there were perks involved in being country's new big thing. When the awards shows came around in 1996, LeAnn's hard work and talent were rewarded. From the Grammys to the Country Music Association and everything in between, she was on a winning streak.
I could really get used to this. This isn't too bad.
It was not so much about the awards that she was winning, but it was that she had worked so hard and her dream had finally come true.
But after all the accolades and stamps of approval, LeAnn had to prove that she could go from little girl to young adult without missing a beat.
Is she going to be able to do it again? Or is she going to be able to translate? Is she going to be able to grow up in the public eye and people accept that?
There was definitely a constant questioning, and people just were wondering if I was, one song with Blue, but it kept going, definitely, which is great.
It did keep going, all the way to #1 again, with her second single, One Way Ticket. LeAnn also released an album of her favorite songs called LeAnn Rimes, The Early Years. And by 1997, she was busy preparing material for a third album. But destiny stepped in when LeAnn had a chance meeting with virtuoso songwriter Diane Warren.
But it was a Friday night. I went to some restaurant in Santa Monica, and she was out with her manager and her dad and her publicist and stuff at the same restaurant.
Warren had written hits for the top recording artists in the business. When she met LeAnn, she was working on a song for the movie Con Air. She needed a powerful voice. And she knew a good singer when she heard one.
She blew me away. She's like a genius, like 14 years old. I'm like, wait a second, someone that young, to be really that world class.
LeAnn jumped at the chance to work with Diane. She knew that the combination of Warren's talent and her voice could result in pure magic.
And on Sunday, just as I was about to leave the condo, the phone rang and it was her manager. So literally, like by a second, I would have missed that call. And he said, LeAnn wants to come over and hear the song. So literally, it wouldn't have happened if I was almost about to close the door.
LeAnn recorded a demo of Diane's song, How Do I Live? And it was submitted for Con Air. Both the song and the singer were accepted for the movie soundtrack by executive producer Jerry Bruckheimer.
And when I was in the studio that night just doing the demo with her, it was like, you know, like the song found the home that it wanted.
But Jerry Bruckheimer hired country singer Trisha Yearwood to do a new version of How Do I Live. He had decided to go in a different direction with the song.
I was really kind of crushed about the whole thing. A lot of confusion and a lot of promises made and weren't made. And, you know, eventually there were 2 singles out, the same song by 2 different artists.
The movie version of the song by Trisha Yearwood was being played on country radio, and LeAnn thought that her recording would never be heard by the public.
And I remember, you know, kind of freaking out about that for a little while, going, wow, you know, I've had this great career, and all of a sudden I have this great song, and I can't do anything with it. And Mike Curb figured out a way.
Mike Curb suggested that they release LeAnn's version of How Do I Live to Top 40 radio and see how it would fare on the pop charts.
How do I get through one night without you? If I had to live without you, what kind of life would that be?
I never even tried to have a song on Top 40 radio. And it instantly was a hit, and it was insane that it's the longest running single ever in Billboard history, so of any song ever.
The song stayed on the Billboard charts for 69 weeks and sold more than 2 million copies. And it took LeAnn and her music to a much broader audience.
Looking back, I'm so glad that, you know, yes, the movie would have been great for me, but I'm so glad that it wasn't, because it just gave it a whole different spin and a whole different story, and it just became larger than life.
She brought that song to life. It's just a phenomenal song. I mean, every artist in their career only hopes to have a tune like that come along.
By the end of 1997, LeAnn had appeared at more than 500 concerts, won countless awards, and been named Billboard magazine's Artist of the Year. But for the 15-year-old, it was a case of, be careful what you wish for. Next, LeAnn hits the wall.
I got very sick for a while and took some time off.
And later, the teen queen makes a very adult decision.
19 to me wasn't 19, you know, I was 30 by then. I'm 40 now.
When Lifetime's intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes continues. We now return to the intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes.
Thank you so much.
By 1997, LeAnn was the darling of the country music crowd, winning countless awards and the hearts of millions of fans. But after 2 years of nonstop performances, LeAnn decided it was time to put on the brakes.
I'm, you know, working, and I have 68 people underneath me that are, you know, that have jobs that I employ. I mean, once I finally understood that at 16, I went, whoa, hold on one second, I need to take a break. I was very run down. I got very sick for a while and took some time off, and I was mentally just tired and very exhausted.
We worked 540 days in 2 years, and that's unheard of for any artist.
There's definitely the downside of working too much and having people commit me to things that I didn't agree to, and not being able to make my decisions completely. And, you know, people forget it is my life, so at some point I have to be informed of what I'm supposed to be doing, and, you know, and make the decisions that I want to make.
Unless you're in the business and you really know what it's all about, it's a very big surprise to you. And we didn't. We just, you know, she wanted to sing, and we were there for her, but when it hit really big, it did get very stressful. The toll did come after a while.
We just had to slow it down, but by that time, she'd already sold 20 million records.
Everything came to a full stop for the first time in almost 3 years. 16-year-old LeAnn and her mom relocated to Southern California.
The mother in me wanted to be that mother bear to protect. And so I said, we need to slow this down some.
And there was another casualty of the Rhymes life on the fast track. LeAnn's parents separated and later decided to get a divorce.
It was time for everybody to kind of reevaluate where they are in life, and her parents did that, and at the time it was what they needed to do and kind of make their own lives again.
LeAnn put up a brave front to the public, but she was deeply affected by the split.
I was around her enough to see that it was hurting her. I could see it in her eyes. I could feel it.
At the same time, LeAnn was beginning a flirtation with actor Andrew Keegan.
I didn't want to date a lot of people. I didn't really have the time. I'm very much a very passionate person, and I had very serious relationships with people.
21-year-old Keegan became LeAnn's first real boyfriend.
It was a very intense relationship, and from there it was great for me to have that because I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want.
While in California, LeAnn honed her songwriting skills and came up with music that she felt reflected her true self.
I've been writing music since I was like 9 years old, so I've always been very creative in that side. And as I get older, as my life experiences, come along, I'm able to write really, really great stuff, I feel.
Ever since I was a little child, I was told to do no wrong.
In 2000, LeAnn was about to turn 18 years old. She was finding her inner voice and preparing to make an album that would be almost entirely her own creation. But before she did that, she dropped a bombshell on her father and her manager, Lyle Walker. In May 2000, LeAnn filed a lawsuit accusing the two men of fraud, claiming they siphoned off more than $7 million from her personal fortune. And the legal battle was played out in public.
It was a jungle. This kid was lost in that jungle. I don't know that she knew what to do, but I do know that she made an effort in controlling it as best she could.
I'm a little bit nervous, especially with all the publicity I've been getting lately. Lately, I've been around so many lawyers, I was afraid my next appearance might be on court TV. But I'm bummed.
You read the tabloids and you hear the rumor on the streets, and it was just this nasty, dirty, suing your father. I mean, no. It was, I'm 18, this is my family, and this is business. It's as simple as that.
It wasn't hatred there. It was, I think she was angry more at the situation than an individual.
At the same time, LeAnn attempted to get out of the contract with Curb Records that was signed for her when she was 12 years old. It was another strike for independence. And another blow came when her relationship with Andrew Keegan ended after 3.5 years. Throughout the legal battles and personal strife, LeAnn tried to keep her mind on her music, and she began some very deep soul searching, hoping to find solace in the midst of that turbulent time.
Amazing grace, oh how sweet the sound.
LeAnn is very spiritual, and I think that is something that's carried her through a lot of the issues in her life, and those dark moments, those difficult moments in the moment of questioning.
I really needed to get my mind together and come out on the other side as, I am in control of my life.
When you've got a voice like that, and you're capable of singing almost anything, you do follow your heart, and you follow your bliss. And I think LeAnn's, finding that path.
I was blind, but now I see.
By the end of 2000, LeAnn had quietly settled the lawsuit with her father and Lyle Walker. She then began the process of healing her relationship with her dad, and she decided to re-sign with Curb Records.
I was thrilled that she made the decision to re-sign with our company, Curb Records, but I was very happy that she made the decision, and this decision wasn't made for her.
I really want to do this now. I want to do it again. I don't feel like a robot, and I'm not tired of working. I felt good about it.
Now in control of her own career, LeAnn was able to make the time to find a new man. And that man was actor Dean Sherrimet. The two met at an awards show in 2000.
He's just funny. I love him to death. He's just a fun guy to be around, and he loves me a lot, and he really respects me, and he understands what I go through every day, and he makes a point to understand it.
At the age of 18, LeAnn was about to embark on an entirely new, fully independent phase in her life.
Wish I knew then what I know now.
Next, LeAnn focuses on healing.
Families really come back together and come full circle, and it's very important to me, and probably more important than it ever has been.
When we return to the intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes. This is Lifetime's intimate portrait of LeAnn Rimes. In February 2002, after a 1.5-year-long courtship, LeAnn Rimes and Dean Sherrimet were married. She was 19 years old.
19 to me wasn't 19, you know. I was 30 by then. I'm 40 now. You know, I've been through so much and I've experienced life. My mom and dad never said anything to me. Both of my parents absolutely love Dean, and my whole family loves Dean, and you know, he's very easily accepted into my family.
We just love him to death. He's just a wonderful son-in-law, and I give him a 10. He's a 10 plus.
With both her parents in attendance, the ceremony in Texas was a very emotional and happy family affair.
We had such a wonderful, wonderful, perfect wedding day, and the one thing my mom had to do, though, when I was 19, I wasn't 21 yet, so my mom had to sign a waiver at the hotel for me to have a glass of champagne for the toast. I think he's taught me a lot about who I am and really how to love the way that it should be.
Almost immediately, the happy couple went to work on a project very close to LeAnn's heart. They wrote a children's book together called Jag. It's about a young jaguar finding his way in the world.
Jag was loosely based on my experiences as going through school and having to stand up for myself and learning to, you know, conquer my fears and not let any of that stand in your way.
LeAnn wanted to connect with her younger fans in a meaningful way.
I know, because I just left adolescence. I just left my adolescence. You know, sometimes parents will tell you one thing, and just because they make it so serious, you know, you don't really listen. So I wanted to kind of take them to a fantasy world and make it fun for them and really kind of learn through that.
Besides writing, LeAnn finds other ways to show her love of children.
She goes into hospitals a lot on the road, and she's really compassionate, and the kids just, you know, just gravitate toward her. I've seen her around children, and she's like a big sister. And I think that's part of, because she missed some of her childhood, she lives some of that through, you know, the kids.
In 2002, LeAnn released a new album called Twisted Angel. It's a coming-of-age statement, and it leaves no doubt that LeAnn is all grown up.
She seems to me to be very comfortable with herself. Just this ongoing transformation into this just very sexy woman.
She'll always be doing something on the cutting edge that will excite the fans and excite the industry.
That same year, LeAnn re-teamed with songwriter Diane Warren to record the end theme song for the movie Legally Blonde 2, called We Can.
She's a great pop singer. She could sing rock, she could sing anything. You know, she can really adapt to anything. I've seen her do it. She's brilliant.
She's become so mature, and her voice gets better and better. She's an articulator, she's a translator. She's a great gift to a great song.
Her voice has changed in the sense that it's It's big now. It's womanly. It's got some low tones to it, and she's understanding how to use it.
I can't wait to see what she grows into, as an artist especially, but you know, also as a person, because her spirit is amazing. That's what I love most about LeAnn, is her spirit.
On August 28, 2003, LeAnn turned 21.
21 is, it's a new phase in my life, definitely. I can leave a lot of the old stuff behind. It seems like I've been waiting longer than 21 years to turn 21. It seems like these last 8 years of my life that I've been working so hard have slowly gone by. It was very cool to be able to say, hey, now I'm a full adult, and I can go hang out with, you know, all my friends have always been so much older than me, so it's like, hey, we want to go out tonight. Oh, we can't take LeAnn.
LeAnn decided to take her show back out on the road for a new tour in the fall of 2003.
I love what I do so much, and I love to sing, and I love to entertain, and I love to be on stage. I love that instant gratification from an audience.
Thank you. I thought she was amazing. I loved her voice and the music and stuff. It's really cool.
But even when the singing stops, the show still goes on. And when they're not on the road, LeAnn and Dean call Nashville, Tennessee their home.
My real reason for moving to Nashville was just peace and serenity. I wanted to come home to a home where it was just very peaceful, and I wanted a lot of land, and I wanted to just, you know, move kind of out of the city, the big city.
Her mom and dad, who are both remarried now, live near their only child, their miracle baby.
You know, families really come back together and come full circle, and it's very important to me, and probably more important than it ever has been.
She and her daddy are having a great relationship now, and I think that is the full circle.
LeAnn grew up in the public eye, and with a decade of experience under her belt, she has emerged as a strong, confident woman, with a role model that has guided her through it all.
As I get older, I appreciate my mom more. She's instilled a lot of wonderful morals and values in the way I treat people and the way I treat myself. She's just a great mom. I don't think I ever tell her that, but I try to sometimes.
Our relationship is just so close, and I can tell. She doesn't have to tell me. She's a very special kid. Oh, young woman now, she would say. If she never sang a note, I would love her. I would love her more than anything in this world, because I know that she's a gift.
I've fallen in love with my parents, so I just love them to death. It's like I said, as you get older, you really respect them and understand kind of what they went through, and I understand what they went through to help me and the sacrifices they made.
As LeAnn's life goes on, she has learned to strike a balance between her private and public life. With her family nearby and Dean by her side, she can now truly be herself.
I've learned to really schedule things so that I feel comfortable and that I'm well and that I'm happy, and I'm never at a point where, you know, I snap or get really exhausted. And, you know, I've really learned how to do that for myself and take care of me. And that only makes me a better artist and a better person and a lot more fun to be around.
Leave It to LeAnn Rimes, only 21 years old, and she's already got a CD of her greatest hits. It's in stores now. For Lifetime's Intimate Portrait, I'm Meredith Vieira.
All of LeAnn's hits on one CD, including the new song, This Love, in stores now.
It was her dream come true.
The Grand Ole Opry?
Until a family tragedy
Grandma Keaton's had a bad spell.
forced her to make a choice.
It's like the biggest night of my life.
Bernadette Peters
You're gonna get where you're going. The question is, who's gonna be there with you?
and LeAnn Rimes starring as herself, based on her true story of hope and inspiration.
For you, Grandma, may you always have a holiday in your heart.
Holiday in Your Heart premieres at 9 tonight, part of Lifetime's Every Day's a Holiday.